Okay, everybody, buckle up for a wild ride through Czech history. We're talking centuries of intrigue, bloodshed, beer, the classics. Our story begins with the Boii, a Celtic tribe who thought, hey, this landlocked chunk of Central Europe looks promising. They set up shop around the 3rd century BC, giving Bohemia its name. It's like naming your goldfish fishy. Not super creative, but hey, it stuck. Centuries flew by like a cheap beer down a cobblestone street, more on that later. Germanic tribes came and went, then came the Slavs, our linguistic and cultural ancestors. They were all about farming, fighting, and probably some banjo music, though the historical record is unclear on that last one. By the 9th century, things were getting organized. Europe was a patchwork of emerging kingdoms and empires, each vying for power and influence. The political landscape was as dynamic as it was fragmented, with borders constantly shifting and new alliances forming. This was a time of great change and transformation, setting the stage for the medieval period that would follow. Enter the Great Moravian Empire, the first real Slavic state in the area. It was a beacon of Slavic culture and political organization, uniting various tribes under a single rule. The Great Moravian Empire played a crucial role in the spread of Christianity among the Slavs thanks to the missionary work of Saints Cyril and Methodius. It was kind of like the cool older sibling that everyone looked up to. The empire was a cultural and political hub, influencing neighboring regions and setting a precedent for future Slavic states. Its rulers were known for their diplomatic skills and military prowess, making Great Moravia a force to be reckoned with. But like all good things, it eventually crumbled. Internal strife, external pressures, and the relentless march of time led to its decline. By the early 10th century, the Great Moravian Empire had disintegrated, leaving behind a legacy that would influence the region for centuries to come. Don't worry, Bohemia picked up the slack. This region, rich in resources and strategically located, quickly rose to prominence. Bohemia became a center of trade, culture, and political power, attracting scholars, artists, and merchants from all over Europe. Under the Premyslid dynasty, it became a kingdom in 1198. The Premyslids were ambitious rulers who expanded their territory and influence through strategic marriages and military campaigns. They established a strong central government and fostered economic growth, laying the foundations for a prosperous kingdom. We're talking serious power players now, folks. Bohemia was not just a regional power, it played a significant role in the broader European political landscape. Its rulers were involved in the complex web of alliances and conflicts that characterized medieval Europe, often tipping the balance of power in their favor. They even had a king named Wenceslas, who, yes, is the dude from the Christmas Carol. King Wenceslas is remembered as a pious and just ruler, whose reign was marked by efforts to promote Christianity and improve the lives of his subjects. His legacy lived on in the popular imagination, immortalized in song and legend. Sadly, no evidence he ever braved any snow for a poor peasant, but a king can dream, right? The story of good King Wenceslas is a charming blend of history and myth, reflecting the values and aspirations of the medieval world. It reminds us that even in the harshest of times, the ideals of charity and kindness were celebrated. Fast forward through some Habsburg shenanigans, those guys were everywhere, and Bohemia became part of the Holy Roman Empire. The Habsburgs were a powerful dynasty that dominated European politics for centuries, and their influence extended far and wide. Bohemia's incorporation into the Holy Roman Empire marked a new chapter in its history, one that would see it become a key player in the empire's complex political landscape. Now I know what you're thinking. Holy Roman Empire? Weren't they neither holy nor Roman nor much of an empire? And you'd be right. The Holy Roman Empire was a unique political entity, a patchwork of semi-autonomous states and principalities held together by a common allegiance to the emperor. It was a complex and often chaotic system, but it managed to endure for centuries, shaping the course of European history. But hey, points for a catchy name, I guess. Despite its flaws and contradictions, the Holy Roman Empire left an indelible mark on the medieval world. Its legacy can be seen in the cultural, political, and legal traditions that continue to influence Europe to this day. After World War I, the Austro-Hungarian Empire went kaput. Finally, in 1918, Czechoslovakia emerged, a union of Czechs and Slovaks. It was our moment in the sun, baby. Our first president, Thomas Garrigue Masaryk, was like the wise grandpa of the new nation. The First Republic, 1918 to 1938, was a time of economic growth, cultural blossoming, and some really questionable fashion choices. Hey, nobody's perfect. Section 4, War and Peace, man, not always in that order. The history of our nation is a complex tapestry woven with threads of conflict and harmony, often in unexpected sequences. Unfortunately, the good times were interrupted. Remember those Habsburgs? They ruled over us for centuries, bringing both stability and strife. Their reign was a mix of cultural flourishing and political turmoil. They were replaced by an even bigger headache, Nazi Germany. The rise of the Third Reich cast a long shadow over Europe, and we were no exception. In 1938, Hitler took over a chunk of our territory in the infamous Munich Agreement. This agreement, signed by major European powers, was supposed to ensure peace but instead paved the way for further aggression. It was basically like letting your friend borrow your favorite sweater and then they never give it back. Not cool, Hitler. The annexation was a blatant act of betrayal and a prelude to the horrors that would follow. World War II was a dark time. The entire continent was engulfed in conflict and our nation was right in the thick of it. Cities were bombed, lives were lost, and the very fabric of society was torn apart. Czechoslovakia was occupied, our people suffered, and our beer production took a nosedive. The war disrupted every aspect of life, from daily routines to cultural traditions. See, even in tragedy, we focus on the important things. Our love for beer and community gatherings remained a source of comfort and resilience. But hey, we joined the Allies, fought back, and eventually the Nazis were defeated. Yay, teamwork. The victory was a testament to the power of unity and collective effort. Then came the Soviets, and suddenly we were trading one totalitarian regime for another. Fun times. The liberation from Nazi rule was short-lived, as we found ourselves under the iron grip of Soviet control, marking another challenging chapter in our history. Section 5, Velvet Revolution, like your history, served with a side of jazz. For decades, Czechoslovakia lived under communist rule. The country was part of the Eastern Bloc, tightly controlled by the Soviet Union. Life was a mix of strict regulations and limited freedoms. The government dictated nearly every aspect of daily life, from what you could say to what you could listen to. It wasn't all bad, free healthcare, guaranteed employment. But it wasn't exactly a laugh riot either. Sure, you had job security and medical care, but the lack of personal freedoms and the constant surveillance made life feel like a never-ending gray winter. Think of it like living with your parents. Comfortable, familiar, but you can't play your jazz music too loud. You had to keep your head down and follow the rules, or face the consequences. People found small ways to rebel, like secretly listening to jazz or rock music, but it was always a risk. But then, 1989 happened. The winds of change were blowing across Europe. The Berlin Wall, that infamous symbol of division, came crashing down. It was a monumental event that signaled the beginning of the end for communist regimes across Eastern Europe. The Berlin Wall fell, Eastern Europe was in an uproar, and we Czechs and Slovaks decided we'd had enough of the whole communism thing. Inspired by the events in Berlin, we took to the streets, demanding change. It was a time of immense hope and uncertainty. Enter the Velvet Revolution, a peaceful protest movement fueled by student activism, rock music, and probably a good deal of smuggled Czech beer. Students were at the forefront, organizing demonstrations and rallies. Music played a huge role, with rock concerts becoming a form of protest. This revolution was so smooth, we named it after a fabric. Velvet, soft and luxurious, symbolized the non-violent nature of our movement. It was a stark contrast to the brutal crackdown seen in other parts of the world. No bloodshed, no violence, just a bunch of people saying, "We want democracy, please and thank you." The protests were marked by their peacefulness, with people holding signs and chanting slogans. It was a powerful display of unity and determination. And guess what? It worked. The government eventually caved to the pressure, and the communist regime fell. It was a moment of triumph and celebration, as people flooded the streets to rejoice in their newfound freedom. Václav Havel, a playwright who'd been imprisoned by the communists, became our president. Havel was a symbol of resistance and hope, and his rise to the presidency was a testament to the power of the people. Take that, Hollywood, you can't script this stuff. The events of the Velvet Revolution were so extraordinary they seemed like something out of a movie. But this was real life, and it was a story of courage, resilience, and the unyielding desire for freedom.